Hi everyone, I'm Courtney Fitzpatrick. Today I'll be interviewing Russ Putterman, team lead at Focus with Keller Williams. Russ, why don't you tell us a couple things about yourself?
Sure. So thanks for taking the time today to ask me some things about where we're at. Like she said, my name is Russ Putterman. I've been in the real estate business about 18 years as an investor, a broker. Currently we sell in New York City, Long Island, and New Jersey, and we're all in this battle together of COVID-19 and our economy being shut down.
So today we wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on in the market as it relates to COVID-19 and how that's impacting the tri-state area right now. So a
Sure.
couple questions for you. Well, first off, what are you noticing in the market this week as far as New York City goes, Long Island, and New Jersey? I'm sure there's some differences for each.
Yeah, I mean, first, and one of the big things that's happening right now is that New York State, we're not allowed to show real estate at all. It can only be done virtually. So that's having a major impact on the city for sure. And then even in some of the submarkets around the city, people can't get in homes. It's hard for them to make a purchase like that. One of the largest purchases, if not the largest, that people are going to make. In New Jersey, it's a bit different because you are still allowed to show. So we can show homes here. We can't hold them open necessarily. And the people that are seeing these homes are very serious buyers that are being qualified. And, prior to them going into the home, we're making sure that it's, safe practices, are being kept. Masks, gloves, sanitizers, shoes off, or booties, what you would imagine. What that's leading to is a lack of activity in New York State, frankly. New York City is down substantially. I would say our new business there is down 95%. On Long Island, it's not down as much. We actually had a listing call today virtually. It's still down, though. There's a lack of inventory in a lot of the suburbs around Manhattan. And in New Jersey, it's certainly down. The market's the best in New Jersey of the three areas that we're discussing as far as activity.
Okay, gotcha. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And I guess on that note too, anything in particular buyers should know about mortgage rates at the moment? And this might also vary for these particular regions.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the stuff that's under the jumbo rates is still, historically low numbers, really great rates out there. The jumbo stuff is a little more tricky right now because there's a bit of a lack of liquidity in the market. So there's less of a place for these banks to sell the debt in the secondary market. You can certainly still get it, but lending standards have tightened up. I'm sure everyone has heard about, Chase in particular came out first and had some pretty strict standards that have come in. You could certainly get debt though, which is a big difference between what's happening now and what happened in the most recent, economic downturn in 2009, 2010. The big issue there was, or one of the big issues there was you couldn't get debt. Here you still can. So it's going to be interesting to see the way that the real estate comes out of this.
Okay, good to know. Uh, Also curious if you have any thoughts or idea on how COVID-19 will impact New York City's home prices once things go back to some form of normalcy.
It's going to be very interesting. And obviously we all wish we had a crystal ball to be able to know what that's going to look like. In my opinion, I think it's going to be, number one, a slow drip over time. I think that there's going to be, an initial flurry of people that wanted to buy and sell that are still going to look to do that. I think there's going to be a new group of people who now, for whatever reason, their plans change, whether it's now to move and buy in New York City or to move out of New York City. I've already started to get some calls around that from past clients that are looking in Jersey or Westchester, Long Island, to make a move outside. And I think you're going to see, on not all, but sellers that are really looking to move and move their apartments. I think you're going to see the biggest opportunity for buyers in this time right after the restrictions get lifted and right after things go back on the market. Then I think it's going to steady off a little bit and then gradually get back, to a normalized market. And when I say gradually, I mean this could be, over a 2-year period, between. Is there going to be a double dip of this whole thing in the wintertime? I mean, there's so many factors that come into play. So that's kind of how I see it playing. I think there's going to be a lot of good investor opportunity. Depending upon how long this goes, I think there may be good opportunity in new developments. So I have some thoughts, and I'm just curious as the rest of the market out there to see what's going to happen.
Okay, fair. All right. And how about as far as the commercial market goes versus the home buying market, are you noticing any differences in consumer behavior there?
I mean, certainly we all see what's happening with retail, restaurants. They're going to be hurting. You know, office space is going to be really interesting to watch. Um, you know, if those of us that were in the business around 9/11 remember that, you know, many of the new buildings in Jersey City were built up after this time of people wanting to move out of the city. I think that you're going to see some people and some companies that are choosing to work outside of the city while still keeping an office there. I also think there's going to be some level of rules and regulations around how you can build out your office space, right? And that's going to have an effect because companies that, you know, for argument's sake, took 50,000 feet, they may have 25% less people, but may end up needing more space because they have to space out the people that are there. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see the way that plays out. I think that the shared office environment is going to have a lot of struggle now, you know, to see what's going to happen with the WeWorks of the world and other companies like that out there. And I think landlords, at least in the short term, are going to have to be very, very open-minded about how they structure deals. Maybe with their retail tenants, they're doing percentage leases instead of, which basically means that they get a piece of the gross revenues or net rent, depending on how they set it up, but usually gross revenues of the tenant. So if you're a restaurant and before you were paying $55,000 a month in rent, maybe now you're giving 6% of your gross revenue as a rent payment, so that you're sort of both in the game together, and the landlord gets to keep a tenant and the tenant can survive their business, because who knows, you know, if people are going to want to sit in a restaurant being served by a waiter who's wearing a mask.
Right. That's very true.
Yeah.
Okay. And one last question for you today.
Sure.
So what advice do you have for home buyers and sellers at this moment?
People always need to live somewhere for whatever reason. And, you know, you need more space, you need less space, you want to be in certain areas for whatever reason. I think that this is going to level itself out and people are going to do what they normally do. I would say if there's something specific that you really want, go after it and get it. You know, history shows that the real estate market will catch up. You could still get debt at extremely good values. In New York City specifically, I do think if you're looking to buy, it's not going to be every seller, but I think your best opportunity for a really good deal is going to happen right after this. And then, you know, you got to do what's best for your family and do it. I mean, I'm telling you, the demand that I'm seeing in some of these markets still is very, very high. There's just no inventory because some sellers don't want anybody going through their homes, right? They can't leave. They don't want a stranger in their home necessarily, you know, during this time, which is understandable. At the same point, I got a phone call yesterday from a seller down here in New Jersey that is moving out of state. And they're like, look, I got a job elsewhere. I have to sell my house. So, you know, my overall advice is stay the course, be smart, ask lots of questions. Locking into long-term debt right now is a great thing. And wishing everyone well and be safe out there, both in your regular lives, and should you choose to do something in the real estate world, certainly adhere to safe practices.
Awesome. That's great advice. And yeah, thank you for, you know, going through these questions and helping us to navigate through these very trying times.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. And everyone stay tuned for weekly updates. We'll try to have some questions answered based on whatever's happening during this time frame.
Yeah. And if anybody out there is watching this has specific questions, feel free to reach out to us either on our social channels at FocusREG. You can email us directly at info@focusreg.com.